Today is going to be a fun, quick, and easy tutorial. I'm showing you how to make the Great Granny Square by Lori Holt. I picked up this book at a local bookstore, and if you can get a copy of this, I would recommend you do. We are going to make this actual quilt square. It is so fun to make, and it's so rewarding when you're done. I will link this book in the description below. You absolutely need to grab this book. It's called Great Granny Squared by Lori Holt. The blocks look like this when they're done. Here's one, here's another one, and then here's a fun different take on it. I am using scraps to make this entire quilt. Let me tell you how that's working. Let's talk through those scraps for just a second. Whenever I have a piece of fabric that I know will not be big enough to use for any sort of project, I cut that fabric down into the largest sized square that it will give me, and I throw it in a box. So these are all 2.5-inch squares. I have a 3-inch square box. I've got all different boxes for all different sizes. The beauty part about this is when you are ready to make a scrap quilt, you already have squares pre-cut, and I personally love scrap quilting with square shapes. This sort of pattern is always going to speak to me. Now, would this work for everybody? No, if you don't want to cut your scraps down like that, nobody is forcing you to. I'm just suggesting that if you're not sure what else to do with them, it's really empowering to have these on hand so that when you do find a pattern like this, you can jump right into the project. Also, by cutting it in the largest square that it will give you, you have options. So you can still use a 4-inch square for a 2.5-inch square need. You just cut that piece down a little bit further. For me personally, this has been a game changer in my sewing room to have these readily available whenever inspiration strikes. I love the convenience of having these ready to go at any time. Let me show you what you need for this project. In her book, she explains how the Great Granny Square block starts with the baby and it builds out to the mama, the granny, and the great granny, which I think is just so special. All of the cutting instructions are in this book, and to promote you purchasing the book, I'm going to recommend that you do. For each square, this is what you're going to need. For the great granny part of the square, you're going to need 12 2.5-inch pieces of fabric, all the same color or pattern. For the granny part, you're going to need 8 of the same pattern. For the mama square, you're going to need 4 green and white squares. And then for the baby, you just need 1 in the center. When I choose my fabrics for this, I try and use variations in color. So I like to have some darks, some lights. I think that really adds to the visual effect of the square. The next thing that you're going to need are your outer border pieces, which I think looks a little confusing when you first look at the pattern, but when I show you how to make it, it will all make sense. You're going to need 12 2.5-inch by 3.5-inch rectangles, and then you'll need 4 2.5-inch by 5-inch rectangles. And I just have a stack here. I bought about 6 yards of this background kind of paisley white on white fabric on super sale a few years ago, and I just decided to use that because it was the right amount that I needed, and I always have it on hand. But I am not going to go ahead and cut all of those rectangles and squares out because that will make me not want to do the project anymore. I cut a few at a time, and that's just how it works best for me. You do whatever you want. Here's how we're going to mock up this square. Now, even though our finished square, it looks like this, the way that we're going to lay this out is actually turned on its axis. And I find it easiest if I do go ahead and lay this out so it's ready to go as I'm sewing it. So you're going to take 2 of those smaller rectangle squares and put them at the top. You're going to grab one of your great grannies, which is your outer edge color, and place that right in the middle. Okay, that's your first row. The next row is 2 of those rectangles again, and 2 of the great granny squares. And then we're going to add in a granny. It's fun when you refer to it like this. It sounds kind of silly. All right, the next one, we're going to do 2 more of those white borders. We're going to put 2 great grannies on the end here. We're going to do 2 grannies in the next part, and then add a mama in the middle. Great. Now our middle row is not going to have any whites. It's going to be 2 great grannies, 2 grannies, 2 mamas, and baby. Oh, I love how this looks already. Okay. Now we're going to do these rows going back down towards the bottom. So this next row is going to be 2 rectangles, 2 great grannies, 2 grannies, and a mama. Great. 2 rectangles again, 2 great grannies, and a granny. These are all 2.5-inch squares. Make sure you are accurate with your cutting because it will make a difference. We are matching up quite a few seams here. And then the last one is 2 rectangles and a great granny. Now, take a second to look at your design and see if it is appealing to your eye. For me, right now, as I'm looking at this, I kind of feel like this green and white is not really working with the project. So I'm going to pause and find a different 4 pieces and see if I like those better. I do like this yellow in the middle. I'm just not sure about this. And it might be just that I need to switch these guys around. I don't know. Let me pause and I'll check back in once I figure it out. I got it sorted out. I think what I need you to see here is that we're not all perfect, right? Like none of us knows exactly what colors work with what. And I could have easily cut all of that footage out of me in the beginning showing my original plan, but then you wouldn't see that it's okay to change your mind. And as new sewists and beginners, I think it's really important to feel the freedom. If you don't like something, switch it out. So this is feeling much better to me. It's almost like a feeling, maybe some of you can relate to this. I get this like overwhelming sense of like peace, like of you got it right. Now it's right, and this may not be your cup of tea. Maybe this will end up looking completely weird when it's done. I don't know. Let's try it out and find out. But I think these colors are super pretty together. I am going to start at the top of my rows here, and I'm going to grab these first 3 up here. And what I do is flip from right to left. So I'm just going to flip this over onto my first piece, match up my raw edges, and sew a seam right there. We're doing a 1/4-inch seam. I've got my 1/4-inch quilt foot with guide. Y'all know I love this foot. It's going to give you a perfect 1/4-inch seam every time because you're going to butt your fabric up against this little bar here and put your needle in the center. It's a fabulous, fabulous tool. My stitch length is a 2.5 and I'm just sewing with, I think, regular cotton thread today. I haven't even looked. Yes, white cotton thread is what I've got loaded. Now, I am sewing this as if you are the most beginner of beginners. If you're a quilter already, you know you can finagle this to chain piece it and go way faster. I'm assuming this is your first quilt square you've ever made in your whole life. That's the level that I am teaching at today. So I am just going to go 1 square at a time. You can open this up and then we are going to take this piece, pretty sides touching, and lay them together to make a little strip with the great granny square in the middle. First one is done. Lay it back in the grid and then work on your next one. So start from right to left, put those over on top of each other, 1/4-inch seam. So we're always working from right to left. I'm opening this up and I'm going to take my next piece, hold it in my hand, and lay them together. One good quick tip if you are starting out with your quilting journey is when you get this laid out the way that you want it, take a picture of it with your phone so that if you do get mixed up or the wind blows and it makes your pieces scatter all over the place, or if you have children who tend to get into things and you're not, sure if you'll be able to finish this today, take a picture of it. That way you'll know exactly where everything goes. I take pictures of anything that I lay out in my sewing room that I know I'm going to need to remember for later, because who knows, as a mother of 3, when I'm going to get interrupted and when I'll be able to get back up here again to finish the project. All right, finishing my second row right now. That's how it looks. Keep going the whole way down your grid until you have all of these rows sewn together, and I'll meet you back here and show you how to connect them all. Okay, bestie, this is what it should look like. All of my rows are sewn together. Now it's time to press them. So I'm going to take each one and just pile it on the bottom row, right on top. That way they stay in order, but they're easier to transport. To the ironing board. You guys, my sewing space is such a disaster. I mean, if you know me, you know it's always a disaster, but it's a little extra special lately because I'm going to a conference next week and I have things everywhere right now. So if you came for aesthetic, you're going to not find it. You might need to go to a different creator. All right, I'm going to sew all of these seams just in the same direction. And the reason for that is when I go to nest these, if it's going the wrong direction, I can just flip it because it's exactly the same all the way across, which is very helpful in this project because sometimes it's hard to try and figure out which way to alternate your seams. So in this one, just don't, because you can flip it to be correct. As long as your fabrics are mirroring each other, you'll be good. Okay, so press out all of those pieces and then I'll meet you back over at the sewing table and I'll show you how to put this together. I've got everything laid back out in its normal order and we're gonna start from the middle and sew out each row as we go. So grab your middle and either the next one up or the next one down, doesn't matter. I'll go for the next one up. Do you hear my bird chirping? I have a bird, I think, living in my chimney. He's a friend. And so now we're going to take this piece and flip it down. So when I lay these together, you can see my seams are going the same way, and that's not going to help me for nesting. So all I have to do is turn this one over. And now I've got one seam going down and one seam going up, which will really help with my seam matching. Take this over to your sewing machine. You can try and pin these together if you want. I typically don't. I find I'm just moving pins around and it becomes tedious. So I'm going to do my best to match my seams. I'm going to feel it with my fingers. You can feel when they're nesting correctly. And I'm going to just focus on one seam at a time. So start sewing. Maintain that 1/4 inch seam. I've gotten through my first seam, so I'm going to focus on my next one now. I'm going to feel it with my fingers, try and get those to lay together nicely. And here's what I need you to hear me say loud and clear. If you do not get those seams to match up properly, it's okay. Do you hear me? No, seriously, listen, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, y'all. It doesn't have to be exactly on point to still be beautiful. I am full of flaws and I'm cute, right? Okay, so I need you to feel the same way about you and your projects, okay? It's all gonna be fine. If we try to be perfect every time we come into our sewing room, I promise you we will not come into our sewing room very much at all, because you're going to walk away feeling defeated, and that's not the point of this. That's not the point of my content. My content is to show you that none of us is perfect. That's why I left that in earlier where I changed all my colors out. We just make decisions and go with the best we can in the moment, and that's just how life is, right? And that's how sewing is. All right, so we've got our first row looking pretty cute. Oh, I like those together. Okay, so now I'm going to go down under the row. We're working our way out from the middle because that gives us a chance to sort of smooth out any of the rough edges here. So I'm going to match this up, flip it up onto my pretty sides, match my first set of seams. Now this one, again, the seams are going the wrong direction for me to nest them, so I'm just going to turn it. Easy as that. And then I'm going to focus on my first set of nested seams. Very good. And sew a straight line here with a 1/4 inch. While I'm doing this, let me say, I love coordinating fabrics. I love when you go and you find like the jelly roll or the fat quarter bundle that is from all the same line and everything is matchy-matchy and beautiful. So fun. But I have a very special place in my heart for scrap projects. I would almost say that I like them more than other types of projects. And here's why. Well, first of all, I've always rooted for the underdog. So anything that's like left astray or not loved enough, I feel like has feelings and needs to be loved. I felt that way about stuffed animals when I was little. Like I would get emotionally distraught if I saw a stuffed animal that looked especially sad at the toy store and my mom wouldn't let me get it. I would just lose, not because I couldn't have it, but because I felt like something was going to happen if I didn't help it. That's crazy. I know. Is anyone else that way? I guess we're just empaths. Whatever. It's how I function. And you know what? It's okay. But when I see those scraps, it's like they're looking for meaning, and I love to give them meaning. Some of my very favorite projects are actually, all of my favorite projects are scrap projects now that I'm thinking of it. It's just, there's something really special about them. All right, here's our second row. I'm gonna continue working my way out from the middle. So my next one will be this one. Then I'm gonna come down here and do this one. Keep doing that until you have the full block, and then I'll show you how to press it and trim it, and then we'll be done. You guys are doing such a good job. Keep up the good work. Here's our beautiful square. I just love it. I think it's so pretty. We're gonna press this now, and you can press your seams however you want. I'm gonna do out from the inside and see how that goes. So I'm gonna lay my iron down and do it just a teeny bit of tugging to make sure I get that seam popped out nice and crisp. And do that with the next one. Now this one looks like it wants to fold in, so that's what I'm gonna do. It's your world, quilt block. I'm just living in it and apparently having a lot of feelings. Which works because my shirt says sew with your feelings, which I guess that's what I'm doing. I always sew with my feelings. How about you? All right, flip it over. I love you, I love you, I love you. From the front, I'm gonna hit it again just to make sure everything is behaving. Now we do a little trimming. We need to add a couple more rectangles and then we'll be good. We need to trim off these two little sections that are on the ends here and square it up with the end of your great granny block. So lay it nice and flat. And if anything, leave a little extra if you're unsure, and you can fix it later. But just flush with that block is usually pretty good. Okay. Now we have those 4 other rectangles that we need to add on. So I've got 4 here. These are gonna go on every single great granny up here at the top and all of these sides here. Okay, so center it on there and then we'll sew that 1/4-inch seam, and we'll do that for all 4. Let me show you. Okay, we've got this centered right on that line right there, and we're gonna do a 1/4-inch seam. So yeah, this block is definitely my current hyperfixation. I'm not trying to do this quilt on any sort of timeline. The point of this quilt is that I have a project sitting here waiting for me where for the most part, everything is already pre-cut, that when I have an extra 30 minutes here or there, I can come up and I know that I can make a quilt block and walk away feeling successful. Sometimes it's not about being in your sewing room all day. Sometimes you just need like a little minute to get away and just do something creative with your hands. And this is the perfect block for that. It's probably about 30 minutes that it takes once you get rolling. The first one that you make might take a few extra minutes, but once you get going, you just make a block, add it to your stack, and eventually you'll have enough for a quilt. How fun is that? I like to have projects like that. I have projects literally all over my house. I'm trying to finish a English paper piece handmade quilt, like everything by hand, every single stitch. I've been working on it for, I don't know, 2 years now. And I'm doing the actual quilting on the top, and I'm going around every single hexagon with hand stitching. I know, because I like to suffer. Could I do it on my machine? Absolutely, but I don't want to. I want to be able to say, it's my favorite type of quilt is to say I made the whole thing by hand. Because what an empowering thing to be able to do, right? To create something beautiful without machinery, anything technological. You just use your hands. It's so great. Guys, I don't know why more people don't take up sewing. I don't know why we are not the most viral hobby on the internet and breaking everything on TikTok and all of the socials. I really don't understand it. It's the best hobby. All right, last one. Sorry, I'm Gabby girl today. I just have a lot to say. Finish that line of stitching, and now it's gonna look like this. And you'll see now that we're getting closer to that, being able to have that square. So let's go to the ironing board, and I'm gonna press these seams on that we just added out, and then we're just gonna cut it, and then we'll be done. This is so pretty. I'm really excited about how this turned out. Okay, flip it over, and we're gonna just iron those seams out towards the outer edge. Press it down. Go to the next one. One more pass over the whole thing. Time to cut. This is always the true test of if you did something right, is if you can actually cut it to the right size that it's supposed to be. So again, in just the spirit of transparency, we'll see if this actually fits in my 12.5-inch acrylic square. It'll be fun. If there is one tool for this specific project I would recommend you get, it is a 12.5-inch square acrylic ruler. I'll link one in the description below. A lot of times they come in a set of other square acrylic rulers. This is a, let's see, 4.5. I use this one all the time. You can actually get a 2.5-inch, which is very helpful for when you're cutting these 2.5-inch squares. I love my acrylic ruler square set, so I'll make sure that's in the description, and they're usually very inexpensive. So something good to have on hand. All right, moment of truth. Okay, looking pretty good. Make sure we're even on the edges here. Great. Okay, press down. Trim it. And I can't do that side from that side, so I'm gonna have to turn it this far. Oh my goodness, that's a beaut. That is a beaut. Here is the finished quilt block. It's a Great Granny square. She's cute. I really love how this turned out. It took me, if I wasn't filming and talking, it would have taken me about 30 minutes to make this square. Like I said, it's a great little just mental break in the day where your stuff is already sitting there waiting for you, and you can go and just make this and feel really happy and march downstairs and be like, look everyone, how productive and talented I am. So that is the Great Granny square. Again, please go support Lori Holt's company. I love Lori Holt. Lori Holt is kind of the person in the sewing industry that I feel like has her life together way better than I ever will. And so I look up to her. I just really love her patterns. I love the way her colors work in her head and the things that she puts together. Her vibe is just super my vibe too. So if you want to check this out, I'll link it in the description below, and then you can make a whole quilt too. And you can show your quilt to me and I'll show my quilt to you, and it'll be wonderful. I'm Chelsea with She Sew Seams. Thank you so much for following along today. Make sure to subscribe so we can stay in touch and you can see all of the upcoming tutorials. I have some really fun ones coming up. Until then, I'll see you next time.